This story is brought to you by English Tales for Learners, where stories inspire growth, emotions awaken strength, and every journey begins with the courage to whisper, "I will try again." In a small, forgotten town, cradled by ancient sleeping mountains and ceaseless whispering winds, there lived a young man named Ayaan. His life was painted in the simple, honest colors of necessity. His days were a tapestry woven with the threads of hard work, and his nights were filled with silent, soaring dreams that had no voice. He wasn't born into privilege or power, just the profound simplicity of a humble life. But deep within him, beneath the surface of his quiet existence, a desire burned with a quiet, persistent flame, a yearning to speak English fluently, not for the pride of it, nor for the allure of fame, but to prove a truth that echoed in his soul, that knowledge has no single language, and that every dream, no matter how small its beginning, deserves a voice that can cross oceans and touch the stars. Yet, whenever he tried to give his dream that voice, his courage would falter. His words, in this new language, would break apart like fragile glass against stone, scattering into meaningless sounds. People would laugh, not always with malice, but with a thoughtlessness that stung all the same. And that laughter built a wall, brick by painful brick, between him and the courage to try again. Until one evening, when the sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, destiny, in the gentle guise of an old, retired teacher named Mr. Farid, crossed his path, and from that single, fateful meeting under the generous shade of a mango tree, began the profound journey of the 5 doors. Door 1. Listening before speaking. Ayaan found Mr. Farid, as always, seated beneath the old mango tree, a fortress of wisdom in a world of rustling leaves. One day, his heart a drumbeat of fear and hope, Ayaan gathered the shattered pieces of his courage and asked, "Sir, how do I start speaking English fluently?" The old man looked up, his eyes holding the deep, quiet patience of the mountains themselves. He smiled, a gesture that was both gentle and powerful. "Mr. Farid, don't start by speaking, my boy. Start by listening. Before you learn to talk, you must learn to hear. You must let the language wash over you like the rain before you can learn to make your own clouds." The words confused Ayaan. Listening? It seemed like a passive act, a retreat. How could silence teach him speech? But a flicker of trust for the old man led him where his own understanding could not. And so he began. He immersed himself in a world of sound. The monotonous rhythm of his walk to work was now accompanied by the articulate voices from English podcasts. He listened to the dramatic cadence of movie dialogues, the gentle, flowing melodies of radio hosts, the sharp, urgent staccato of news reports. At first, it was chaos, a storm of unfamiliar sounds, a cacophony where he was a lone, drowning sailor. But then, slowly, as if a fog was lifting from his mind, he began to recognize patterns. The rising intonation of a question, the firm, falling tone of a statement. Words he had once read silently on a page now had a voice, a music, a soul. His ears were no longer just organs. They had become the first door, and each new sound was a patient teacher guiding him through. He realized a profound truth. When you listen deeply, not just with your ears but with your soul, the language stops being a subject and starts to live inside you. That was the first door, patience. Because true listening isn't about instantly understanding every syllable. It's about surrendering to the rhythm, letting the music of the language sink, note by note, into your soul. Door 2. Reading to feel the language. After weeks of this auditory immersion, Mr. Farid pressed a worn, torn book into Ayaan's hands. The leather was soft with age, the pages thin as whispers. Miss Farid. Now, don't just read the words with your eyes. Feel them with your heart. Let the story breathe through you. Let its characters walk beside you. The book was a simple collection of stories, tales of courage, hope, and love. That night, under the soft golden glow of a kerosene lamp, Ayaan began a new ritual. He would read a single paragraph aloud, his voice awkward and hesitant. Then, he would trace its meaning into the warm, familiar soil of Urdu. Finally, he would whisper the English words again, but this time he was not just reciting. He was searching for the heartbeat, the emotion, the life hidden between the lines. He started with children's books, where the language was pure and the emotions clear. Then, he moved to articles that opened windows to the world, and short stories that delved into the depths of the human heart. With each turned page, he began to feel the emotional texture of English. He felt the hollow ache in a word like lonely, the bright budding promise in begin, the gentle healing warmth in forgive. Language is not a fortress of grammar rules to be conquered, he thought, a revelation dawning upon him. It is a living, breathing entity of emotion. The second door swung open, understanding. He saw that reading wasn't a mere exercise in collecting new vocabulary. It was an intimate act of learning how other people think, how they feel, how they dream and despair in another tongue. Door 3, writing every day. One evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, Ayaan sat beside his mentor again. A new worry etched on his face. Ayaan, sir, I listen until the sounds echo in my mind. I read until the stories live behind my eyes. But my thoughts, they are still born in Urdu. How do I make them come to me in English? How do I think in English? Mr. Farid nodded, understanding the invisible barrier. He took out a small, simple notebook, its pages blank and full of potential, and placed it in Ayaan's hands. For Farid. The bridge between reading and thinking is writing. Write, every day, even one line, one honest thought. The day you can write your deepest feelings in English, the joy, the fear, the hope, is the day you will begin to think in English. At first, the blank page was a terrifying abyss. His words stumbled onto it, misshapen and clumsy. His spelling was a maze of errors, his grammar a tangled web, but he didn't stop. He wrote about the bitter taste of his morning tea, the deep weariness in his bones after a long day, the memory of his mother's smile that could light up the darkest room. Each sentence was imperfect, raw, and undeniably real. Over time, the notebook transformed from a record of errors into a mirror of his growth. When he looked back at the first page, he didn't just see mistakes. He saw the brave, trembling hand of the boy who had started. When he looked at the last page, he saw the steady hand of a young man on a journey. He realized something that would stay with him forever. Mistakes are not failures. They are footprints of progress, each one a mark that you are moving forward. The third door was Miaoste. Expression. The raw courage to let your innermost thoughts find a shape, no matter how broken or imperfect they may seem. Door 4, speaking without fear. This was the final frontier, the tallest and most daunting wall, the door of speaking. It was every learner's nightmare, the moment of truth where theory met reality. His heart would pound, his palms would sweat at the very thought. But one morning, he stood before his own reflection in a small, slightly cracked mirror. He looked into the eyes of the young man he saw there and said aloud, his voice firm with newfound resolve, "Good morning, Ayaan. Today we speak without fear." He became his own first listener. He practiced greetings with the rising sun, questioned his own reflection, and introduced himself to the empty air. He described the world around him in English as he walked to work, commented on the sweetness of his tea, and even muttered conversations under his breath while waiting for customers. People noticed, some laughed, some mocked. The old, familiar wall of laughter tried to rebuild itself. But Ayaan no longer saw a wall, he saw a hurdle. And he had learned a vital lesson. Confidence doesn't come before speaking, as a permission slip to begin. It comes because you speak. It is built, word by wobbly word, in the very act of trying. He sought out safe spaces, joining online groups where he could voice chat with kind strangers from across the globe, who corrected him not with ridicule, but with encouragement. He recorded his own voice and listened back, not to criticize the accent that made him, but to celebrate the sheer courage in every syllable. Then came the day of truth. A tourist, looking lost and anxious, approached him, a map held in confused hands. He asked for directions in English, and Ayaan answered. The words came not with the perfection of a dictionary, but with the fluency of understanding. They were clear, helpful, and most importantly, They came without a single moment of the old, paralyzing fear. The tourist smiled, thanked him genuinely, and went on his way. Ayaan stood still in the bustling street, a silent triumph echoing in his heart. The fourth door had opened. Confidence. Door 5, living the language. Years flowed like a quiet river, carving a new landscape within him. Ayaan's English improved in leaps and bounds, but the change was far deeper than vocabulary. His very mind had been transformed. He changed the language on his phone to English. He wrote his grocery lists in it, and in the deepest, most secret corners of his sleep, his dreams began to weave their narratives in this new, familiar tongue. He was no longer studying English, he was living it. It was in the music he heard, the news he read, the thoughts that ran through his mind. It had become a part of his being. And one bright, sun-drenched morning, he found himself standing at a podium, before a hall filled with young, eager learners. Their eyes, wide and hopeful, held the same flickering flame his once did. The same boy who once stuttered in the shadow of a mango tree was now a man, his voice strong, warm, and alive, filling the air with words that danced with conviction. Learning English isn't about talent, he told them, his voice resonating with a truth forged in perseverance. It's not a gift given to a lucky few. It is about patience, relentless practice, and an unshakable belief in yourself. These are the 5 doors. And when you finally, courageously, walk through the last one, you won't just find English waiting for you. You'll find a stronger, braver, more capable version of yourself. The 5th and final door, transformation, had opened, not just to a new language, but to a new life. So, dear listener, if Ayaan, with his simple beginnings and his wall of fear, could find the courage to open all 5 doors, so can you. Listen to us, let the language seep into your bones. Hidawa, let stories from other worlds become your own. Write. Give your thoughts a shape, however imperfect. Speak in me, let your voice be heard, however it trembles. Live for. Let the language become not a lesson, but a part of your life. Because English isn't just a subject to be mastered. It's a journey of self-discovery. And every word you speak, from the simplest to the most complex, is a step toward the destiny you are meant to claim. This was The 5 Doors, A Journey to Learning English. Subscribe to English Tales for Learners, where your story begins, not with perfection, but with a single courageous word.